Hello, explorers, and welcome back to Reach the World's Explorer program. For over 20 years, Reach the World has inspired youth to become curious, confident, and compassionate global citizens through virtual exchange. My name is Tim, and I'm so glad you're joining us for today's live stream event. Do you think you have what it takes to row 3,000 miles across the entire Atlantic Ocean? The last time we spoke with Caleb, Hugo, John, and Tom from Team HMS Oardacious, they were just about to cast off from the Canary Islands, and over the course of more than a month, rowed their way across the entire Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean island of Antigua. All four rowers are Royal Navy Submariners, and in taking on this monumental challenge, they were determined to test their own resilience while also raising awareness for the mental health challenges that often affect the submariner community. And needless to say, we've been following their journey closely for the past many weeks. And through the Reach the World Virtual Exchange articles, we've gotten a chance to get a unique glimpse into their life at sea. But today, we get to answer the big question, the one I know you all want to know. Did they make it? Did they make it all the way to Antigua? Before I welcome the team, I want to give a special hello to the teachers and students around the world who are joining us live today or watching a recording of this event. For our live audience, please feel free to use the YouTube chat bar to let us know you're here, where you're joining from, and of course, to share any questions you have for Team HMS Oardacious as we go today. And with that, let's welcome Caleb and John onto the screen. Let me bring them up. Hello, guys. Welcome back to Reach the World.
Hello. Hello.
Very much for having us, Tim.
It is fantastic to see your faces after many weeks of just knowing that you were battling the elements as you were making your way across the Atlantic Ocean. Caleb, maybe you can relieve our suspense. Did you make it? Did you make it all the way to Spain?
We did make it all the way across. We finished in 35 days, 17 hours and 19 minutes. Check them right, John? Yeah. So we finished.
Right. You're indeed correct.
We finished within the race. We came ninth. That was out of 43 teams, and some incredible efforts from the other teams out there. And it was just amazing to be part of that race. We managed to regain a previous title the team had, which was to be the fastest all-serving military team to cross the Atlantic, which, again, quite an achievement. Hopefully something that we hold on to for a couple of years before it's taken off us again. But no, it was amazing.
Fantastic. 35 days plus at sea, rowing constantly. That is, the accomplishment is staggering. It's like, as a whole, it's a lot to take in. I am excited to have you here today so we can talk about what those days were like for you. I'm sure there were some highlights, maybe some low points along the way. John, what was a typical day like when you're all alone in the middle of the ocean? What was a day like for you?
It was always what we'd like to think of as a step at a time. You didn't try to expect too much out of the days because they could very much feel, especially in the middle of the race, the same as the day before. So a typical day would look like you get up out of your cabin, you go onto the deck, the person you were going to relieve is probably waiting for you with bated breath, and you'd sit down, you'd give yourself a quick adjust, whatever you needed to make sure you could focus on an hour and a half to 2 hours of rowing. And once you're ready and your oars are in the water, then your opposite number, that's when he can actually stop rowing. So that way we kept a continuous, at least 2 sets of oars in the water all the time. It's quite hard to do. And I'd be lying if I said we successfully achieved that all the time, because as Callie, we're very tired. It's a very tiring effort, and sometimes it wouldn't quite work out. But we did every effort to keep doing that. And then once you can pull, if I was going off, once you can pull your oars out the water, then you're in your time off period. That could look like having something to eat. So if someone's sorted out all the food, then there's something for you to eat. And then having a stretch, going into and getting yourself dry so you're not too wet. Otherwise, your skin's going to start to suffer. Have yourself a talcum powder and things like that. When the weather is especially rough, what you'd want to do is take your wet clothes off and dry yourself off and put some dry stuff on to sleep with, knowing that when you go back on, you need to put the wet clothes back on. Otherwise, you're going to run out of clothes very, very quickly. And that would repeat probably, 6 to 8 times over a 24-hour period.
So you do that series of 2 to 4 hours of sleep, sort of change row several times over the course of a day for 35 days straight.
That's right. And I would caveat that, or I'll add that the time you get off on that hour isn't that whole hour or two is not for sleeping, because you have to do all these little bits and little routines, and looking after the skin was so important. So moisturizing your hands, and anything else that was chafing, like all the time. You're not to wait till it gets sore. You must deal with it all the time. And then it would actually, your hour might look more like 40 minutes or something like that. But I think we adapted as best as we could, as best as any person with that little sleep.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can imagine sort of the adrenaline keeps you going for the first couple days, but after a while you need to like settle into a routine that's sustainable.
John said it perfectly there, but it was about doing stuff before it became a problem and before. So what was really, really hard is your body's always telling you you're really tired or you're really hungry. They're things that you know you need right then. And so it's easy to go, yeah, okay, I'll have some sleep. Okay, I'll eat some food. Like, it's the stuff that, you could not do it for a week, but in a week's time, you're going to be in a bad state because of it. So there's things like stretching that you'll come off thinking, I don't need to stretch. I'll skip stretching and have some food and go to sleep. It's like, no, I need to stretch, which is fine. But when you're really, really tired, it's like, no, I need to make myself stay awake a bit to stretch, because I know when I wake up, I'm going to be very stiff when I get up. So I need to stretch off first. And the same with looking after your skin, stopping yourself getting salt sores, stopping yourself getting chafing and stuff. That at the time, like, I'm really tired, I need to sleep. It's like, no, I've got to look after my skin, because otherwise, and a few of us fell afoul of this slightly, where you would give it 2 hours, 6 hours, whatever, as you were too tired, you were going to skip that, and then all of a sudden you're very uncomfortable or you're sore, and it doesn't take 2 to 6 hours to go away. It takes a week, 2 weeks. Some of the sores that once you've got them, you're never going to get rid of them whilst you're still on the row. You need to stop completely rowing to be able to clear it off. So it's very much that little like these constant minor battles you're having against stuff that you're not yet experiencing, just to hold it at bay for as long as possible, which is the hard. But I think that's something we did really well between us.
Caleb, can you give us an example of something that didn't go to plan and how you sort of adjusted to fix it?
So we had a few things that didn't go to plan. We had a lot of plans. We had a hell of a lot of plans. So we had lots of backup plans. And there was one big thing in the middle. Now, something that happens because we're on a boat that's going pretty slowly compared to other boats, because it's just us rowing us. So yachts, motorboats, stuff like that, they tend to go a lot faster. So because we're going slower and the water's really nice and warm, we get lots of stuff growing on the underside of the boat. And we didn't realize, but we were getting it a lot worse than lots of the other boats out there. So there was around the middle of the race, we slowed down quite a lot compared to people around us. And we were still working really hard. We were still rowing really hard and completely killing ourselves each day. And it'll get to the end of the day and we'll be told, no, you're going slower than everyone around you. And our competition at the time, we didn't expect some of the teams that were catching up with us and overtaking us to be competition at all. We should have been a lot stronger and a lot further ahead. So we spent a lot of time really questioning, okay, what's slowing us down? Is it our auto tiller? Is it working too hard to slow us down? Is our technique falling out? Is our weight in the wrong place of the boat? So we're either dragging the back end, or we're a bit lopsided, or where are we losing this speed? And what becomes really difficult is to not instantly start trying to blame each other. So you go, okay, we've checked all the equipment. We don't think the equipment is broken. The only other thing left is, well, there's 3 other people rowing that aren't me, and I know I'm putting in the effort. And John tells me he's putting in the effort, but do I know that? And it's what's really, really hard is staying together as a team and going, no, I trust John, I trust Hugo, I trust Hutch. We all know we're putting in as much work as we can. And that's where we power through. And it turned out that the thing that was slowing us down was all this growth on the underside of the hull. Now, we worked that out, but then we couldn't do anything about it, because at that time we're in really high sea state. So in order to fix it, one of us needs to get out the boat into the water with like a scraper, like the sort of scraper your parents would use to de-ice the windows, for those of you that lived in colder weathers during the winter. So if you've got ice on your windscreen in the car, a scraper like that, and we go over the whole bottom side of the boat. But we knew for like 3 days the weather was going to be too rough for us to be able to do that. So it was a real struggle to know, okay, for these 3 days, we're going slower than we want to be, but hopefully there's a fix for it at the end. Which was hard, but we got through it. We scraped the hull and immediately sped up by loads. And everyone that had just overtaken us, we caught back over in a day or two. And that was a great feeling. But it was hard when that balance of feeling worse and struggling as a team to then all of a sudden be shooting off again. It was hard, but we got through it. And it was some good lessons along the way about staying together, staying friends, staying a good team, because it's far more important that we like each other and we stay friends than we put each other under pressure we don't need to be under, because that won't make us go quicker. It will just make us not be friends.
Amazing. We had heard at one point in the race that one of the other boats capsized, and thankfully all of the rowers were safely rescued. But it really sort of underscored that the dangers of being in the middle of the ocean in a rowboat. Maybe, John, can you talk about that? Were you aware that another boat had capsized, or that you yourself were in sort of similar danger if you didn't really play it safe?
Oh, yeah. We talked about the capsize scenario quite a lot in our training, and we were in contact with land, so we did find out about the other team. Actually, we really got quite we struck up a good friendship with that team when we were in the Canaries. So we're quite sad to hear what happened. I mean, to anybody, the sea can be a very dangerous place, even for people who are qualified and trained. Things don't always go to plan. In fact, they rarely go to plan, and we always have all these other backup plans just in case. They're very lucky that they got picked up when they did. As for like the dangers, we'd always talked about what would happen, how to deal with a capsize and what we would do. And unfortunately, that's all you can do. And this is true to life for any of your listeners, is that any circumstance where you think, well, I've planned for this, and you've just got to work with what you've got. The account of the other team capsizing, even during the capsize, lots of things didn't quite go to plan. They had a plan to use certain equipment and use their life raft. Actually, it didn't work out, and they were lucky enough that they got picked up by a tanker within range of their radio. So they used everything they had to raise the alarm, and that's exactly what you should do. But what I'm saying is that some of their equipment just didn't. It could always happen to anybody. Right. So they made the best situation out of what they had, and thankfully it worked out for them. And that's all we would ever be able to do, really. We've got many plans, A to F, but maybe all but one will work. So. Mm-hmm.
I've been in touch with a few of them since. They are all well. For those at home, they did capsize. They managed to raise the alarm, and they were rescued by a merchant vessel on its way to Canada. They were a US-based team of US veterans. And so very luckily, they were picked up within, I think it was an hour and a half. They were on a merchant vessel on its way up to Canada. They got back home. They are safe. I've spoken to them a couple of times, and they're all already talking about when they can start training and get fundraising.
Do it again. Yeah, we're very happy that they're all safe. It just really underscores some of the challenges of this race. It's you have to be prepared, and it sounds like everyone was prepared for all of the things that could go wrong, and in that case did. Let's talk about like the fun things about being at the ocean. You have put yourself through a lot of hardship. You put yourself in a little bit of danger to be, rowing across the ocean. What was the best thing? Like, what did you have moments along the way where you're like, this is hard, but my goodness, is it worth it?
Loads. John, do you want me to start? Probably.
Yes, but yeah, go for it.
There's two main things. I won't steal both of them. The sea life and creatures that we saw, and also the stars at night. I'm sure John could talk about the stars, but the sea life that we saw was amazing. We were very lucky in the first week or two. We weren't so lucky at the end of the race. I don't think we must have smelt or something. Not much wanted to come near us in the last couple of weeks. But the first couple of weeks, we were really lucky with a pod that must have been a couple hundred dolphins, and they stayed with us for about half an hour. They were jumping in the waves next to us. They were dancing in the bow waves. They were swimming around us. It looked like a choreographed sort of display or event. We even at one point had one of the dolphins jump clean out of the water and do a backflip. We missed that on camera. We took a lot of videos. Not all of them came out perfectly, but I think I had one by sheer luck. As I turned the camera on, looking out the front of the boat, there was a couple of dolphins came across, just came clear of the water. I then decided we had a GoPro, so it was waterproof. So I stuck my hand in the water, having no idea what the camera was looking at or what direction it was pointing in, and moved my arm around a bit. And by sheer luck, I put it in staring at about 10 dolphins, and then panned out as 4 of them pulled away. But it looks planned, but it definitely wasn't.
I'm going to show, Caleb, just interrupt you quickly. I'm going to put the link at the bottom of the screen to your virtual exchange homepage where we shared one of your videos of the dolphins. It was spectacular. It's magical is really his best way to describe it.
And at the time, it just is, you can't think of anything better to cheer yourself up. If the day was going quietly, or if you were getting a bit tired or down or in a bit of a grump, you see dolphins come across, and it just reminds you that this is such a novel experience, and we're so lucky to be out there, really. And even when you don't feel lucky, it just reminds you that actually there's so many people out there that will never get this sort of experience, and we're really, really lucky, and we deserve, for all the hard work we put in, I've no doubt that we also deserved a little bit of luck there. There was that, and we had a very rare encounter with quite a large whale. It came up. We just spotted it just out of the blue. There was a couple of us on deck. I think, John, you were the only one not on deck, weren't you? We got you up.
Yeah.
John got dragged out of bed mid-off watch, so mid-sleep, come onto bed, and every time John managed to get his head out the cabin, it disappeared. He was like, "Oh, no. Okay, John, you might as well lay down again." And then the second he closed the cabin door, it would pop up. "John, come on, get out!" You stick it, and it's gone.
I started to not believe you.
John spent the day convinced we were just winding him up, and that wouldn't be the first time we tried similar. But no, it was this amazing. Just a wave just behind the boat. We saw the dorsal fin and the back of what looked like a reasonably sized whale at the time just pop out, and it turned out it was a massive whale with a small dorsal fin. But it didn't broach again next to us. But what it did do, it was quite wavy at the time, and it just sort of circled us, and so we could see the outline of it in waves as it came past. That was quite, in a way, quite ominous and scary. It was just there scoping us out, seeing what we were. And at one point it came across and it went clean under the boat. So very much, the view from above in Jaws-esque of like this massive whale just coming clean under the boat. And it was only then we're like, wow, it was just far away. It is big. It's bigger than the boat. And this has just come clean up underneath us. Which was quite humbling and amazing. Unfortunately, it swam off and we didn't see it again. But, it was quite amazing to see, and had us rethinking that we're not out here alone. We might feel alone, and we might not see much on the surface, but I'm sure under the surface there's so much we won't see.
That's incredible. And John, you're saying there's some spectacular stars.
Oh yeah, the sky at night was unbelievable. And sometimes, because we were rowing, there were times where I never even looked up. Just be overnight, slogging away, and every so often I go, just have a quick peek up, and just remember again, like this is unreal. I grew up in a city, so you don't really get to see those sorts of sights because of all the light pollution. But yeah, so you'd have the sun would go down to the most spectacular sunset, and then you'd have darkness for a little while, so you could see all the stars. And I mean, you see everything moving. It's so busy. See satellites. We saw space station move over. We saw comets. Constantly saw comets. I was surprised at how busy the sky was, even at night. And then the moon would come up, so you'd see this like off on the horizon. Start off with like this shimmering orange yellow, and then it would come up, and it would be like someone bright white light on. All the stars would go, but it was so bright. The moon, it was like monochrome daylight. It really was. It would keep you awake. So if you were nodding off overnight on the oars, that's what would give you a second wind, as it were. It's just unreal. And I'm not making this up. Christmas Eve, there was an extra long, it was like miles long comet. So read into that what you will. that was I was so humbling, massive. Just, and that's all I felt so small. I'd look left and right of me, and then up at the sky, and they're just too small. But it was beautiful. It really was
incredible. Kaelan, we talked a little bit before you left about the food situation on board the ship. You had those dehydrated meals that you were going to sort of add hot water to, and that was your food source. How did that work out?
Oh, well, yeah, brilliantly. So we ended up not going with the hot water solution. We went with the cold water solution, which doesn't sound nicer, but it's a lot easier. So again, we talked about how you want the time you're not rowing, you want to be resting as much as possible. So we found what worked was you finish rowing and you think, before you've even finished, you're thinking, what jobs do I need to do before I can go to sleep? Or before I can eat? You're like, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And some of it was making food, and some of it was, tidying the boat, getting that out. But so we'd have like in that frantic time to get stuff ready before we go to bed, you didn't really want to be getting out a jet boil, a camping stove. If any of you have been camping before, rigging that up, getting it secure in. We had a bit of wood cut out to stabilize it on the boat where we're moving around quite a lot. Obviously, you don't want an open fire and boiling water sloshing about too much. So we had that. We would have that to stabilize and cook. But we're like, do I want to do that for 20 minutes now? Or do I want to add some cold water and just come back next watch? And we have to do that. But we were in some ways lucky, some ways unlucky. It was just so hot the whole way across. It must have been high 20s, if not 30s in Celsius, which for some of you out there is not that hot. For us from England and the UK, that is very warm temperatures that it gets to at the height of summer. So for me, with my complexion, it was very on the warm side, and I think John had not quite as much trouble as I do. Definitely came away with a much better tan, but because it was so warm, if we added some cold water, put it in like a Tupperware box, plastic box, left it on deck for an hour, you come back and it'll be nice and warm. But the food was great. The struggle, like the food wasn't too bad. We all had favorites, and we all had our least favorites. There was, by the end of it, we were getting quite picky of what we did want to eat and what we didn't want to eat. And I'm sure John will be able to give you a full list of food he would never want to see again. John was a lot less picky than some of us by the end. In the past,
what is the first thing you ate when you got back onto land? What was the thing you missed the most?
So the first thing we were given was a burger and chips and stuff, which is part of you finish the race, you see your family, you get sat down with the burger and chips and stuff. Because we finished at gone 2 in the morning, I don't think any of us, whilst we all enjoyed the burger and chips, it wasn't quite the same experience as probably most of us had the next day when we got to sit down with some really nice local food. For me, the first bit of food I enjoyed the most was probably some local jerk chicken. Really, really good, nice, some actual meat that hadn't been dehydrated for a couple of months prior, and just some nice fresh food. I had a real craving for fresh vegetables. Don't know about you, John. What was your first best meal?
Same, yeah, absolutely same. My first meal was actually breakfast with my children in the morning in the place we were staying at. So It sounds really basic. It was just all bran, some strawberries, and cold milk. But those were like textures that I hadn't had for the best part of a month. So it was really, really nice. And it was nice to sit down and have something cold and crunch time.
Yeah, with your family too. That adds a lot. John,
brilliant. Yeah.
Can you talk about what it feels like after being at sea for a bunch of weeks to know that you're getting closer and closer to land, getting closer and closer to your goal? You know that your family is going to be there when you get there. What's that feeling like after, many weeks? You're probably exhausted. Like, what's going through your mind as the Antigua got closer?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you exactly, because it's got to be one of the highlights of the race for me, actually, was coming in. Just how I felt. So in the 24 hours leading up to it, we started to see Antigua. Couldn't get excited because it was a smudge on the horizon for a long time. So every so often it's like, look, you land. Yeah, I know, it's getting ever so slightly closer. And we were all very tired. The week was probably the hottest. There was no wind. There was no cloud. So we were just rowing really hard, trying to keep speed up. Anytime we stopped rowing or went down to make a rower at one point, speed would fall right off the boat. And that very morally, that could be quite demoralizing. You'd feel really done by, because you knew the race was ending, but when? it was down to us. How quick could we row? But then in the last 2 hours, so the sun had gone down and we were already on fumes, I'd say. Our friend and team manager, Tom Stedman, came out on a local boat. So the Antiguan Barbuda rescues run by a UK citizen who used to be in the submarine service. So it was like having a friendly and help us out. And just hearing Tom's voice, just chatting to us in the flesh rather than on a phone, and shouting over to us was really just gave us all a big boost, and we went from really flagging up, droopy eyes, all of a sudden we were rowing hard again, really, really hard. Okay, it's this real now,
Yeah.
That was
got the music on, didn't we?
We got the music on. The race team came out, their media boat came out, and they were people we'd spoken to in the Canaries, and they were like, "Hi guys," and we were putting on a bit of a show for them, and messing around a little bit, and all of a sudden it was just like we had really good humor and spirits back. It's all like a simple flick of the switch, and as we got in and we could see the harbour and where the pier where we were going to land. And I was sat amongst the faces, and then I saw my wife and my children, and I was just over the moon, like it's just absolutely overjoyed. And I think I'm sure everyone felt the same. We just went into autopilot mode, got alongside. Everyone helped us off. The race make a point of helping you off because your legs are going to be very much all over the place. But I still picked up my children because I really wanted to, and it was just. That's a moment I'll always remember. It was really just drew a line under it all for me, definitely.
I love the picture where you're holding flares, and we use that sort of to announce this live stream. What's the significance of the flares? It's like as a celebration.
I think just drawing as much attention to yourself as possible. It's just a race tradition. It's just a race tradition of announcing that we'd finished. We'd row right up until we get into English Harbour, and there will be a flare let off. By the safety officer to say that's the end of the race. We've finished, and then we get up on deck, let off the flares, and just. As far as the locals were concerned, just screamed the place down. We were shouting and cheering. The race organisers said, I don't know if they were lying to make us feel better or not, but said we were definitely the loudest team that had ever come in. As we were just screaming the place down. We could just about see and make out our family up on there's like an old fort and battlements that overlook the harbour. And there was all of our family stood there with torches and lights and their phones out waving, and so we're just doing our best just to shout up to them.
That's
and
amazing.
Yeah, it's good, it's amazing. It all stops and it's like, right, just row in the last half a mile, not quite that far, but we're in the last couple of 100 meters, and we're like, okay, who wants to row? We're all like, no, I'm tired. I don't got a voice anymore. Hugo had nominated himself to do that, and I was steering, and he was around. I was like, "Come on, mate, a little bit more, please." I'm trying to avoid boats. He was like, "I'm tired." I was like, "I know, but I don't want to crash."
Spectacular. Now you all, your whole team set out to do this challenge with a very good mission in heart. You were showing the resilience of the submariner community. You were raising awareness for mental health in the submariner community. What have you learned from doing this? Did you feel like as professional submariners, you were like well trained, well prepared to go on a voyage like this? What's the takeaway for the students who are watching?
I definitely would say that I think we are four quite confident, physically confident people, and the question for myself that was always hanging over my head was, what would I be like mentally? I am actually a PTSD sufferer, so for this it was very much a utilizing all the skill treatment that I had been given to be able to manage my own mental well-being and still be a contributing member to the team. I wanted to do the best for myself and for my team. Over the time that we've trained together, we've all become quite close friends. You need to be able to be on a rowing boat with someone for 4 to 5 weeks. There's always going to be something that you might bicker about, and we did have our fair share of little niggles and arguments with each other. But one of our missions was that we would never let an argument last all day. And we were really good at that. I think we were really good at being kind, not just to other people, but ourselves. And that's one thing I learned, was that I now know that I can have this. I always knew physically I would be able to do something like this, but I now know mentally that I could help the team and help myself. And that was just a really nice revelation to have, because it's really drawn a line under my own experience with mental health. And I say anyone who, any of your listeners who do team sports and activities, you'll realise that you'll take knocks during your chosen sports, maybe from your own teammates, but recognising where it comes from. Callum said it early on, we were all very tired, and 99% of the time that's all it was. We were just a bit short on the fuse, and then you come back another watch later, maybe an hour or two later, and go, "I'm sorry, mate. I realise I said something out there, and you're tired, I'm tired, we're both sore. We just got to give each other a break, and it would be gone." And that was it was nice, really nice to be able to do. And that's my big takeaway from the race, really.
Awesome. Thanks, John. How about you, Caleb?
So we did. John's completely right. It's how our relationships work together is something that we knew we had to work on, and that's not something you would normally say about a group of friends. If a group of friends or a group of people that work together, it's not something that's in the forefront of your mind. You think like, we're going to have to really work on being good friends or being really helpful to each other, because normally when you're not tired and when you're not stressed, it's that stuff that comes naturally. Whereas when you're tired and you're stressed, it's the stuff that you don't mean to be doing, or you lose a bit of patience and you get a bit shorter with someone, or you get a bit snappy and you get a bit grumpy. And you're not doing that because you don't like the person. You're not doing that because you want to be horrible. You're doing that because you don't have the time and the reflection to stop yourself doing it. So we did a lot of work with a psychologist before we started, and what she was really, really helpfully able to do was just give us a few little tools and a few little exercises to do each day, which, if anything, just forced us into having a bit of an honest conversation. And it's really easy to ignore, just bottle down and ignore any little minor thing that's irking you or irritating you about someone, or just something, or just in general, just a negative thought that's going around in your head. And it's easy to just ignore that, push that away, and keep conversation light-hearted and chatty, like, oh, this is really annoying me about home, or this is really annoying me that, John, you're doing or not doing, and these are the things that we need to happen. Whereas when it seems small and petty, like, I won't mention anything, hopefully it'll go away. I won't mention anything, hopefully it'll go away. And where teams really struggle, and I've experienced this in the past, and where we know, is when you bottle that down, eventually it comes out. And it will come out in a way that you're not controlling. It will do a lot more damage than it would have ever done otherwise, because it will come out as some angry, aggressive, over the top, say something you don't mean. So what we did, I think that worked very well at the start, and we were sort of automatically doing it by the end because we practiced at the start. It was just each day talking about what we're enjoying to bring everyone's mood up a bit, and what is eating at us, just to, if at anything, just give each other understanding of how we're feeling. That if John was able to come and watch and go, I'm struggling with something at home, I've had a message that's made me a bit upset, or this has been going on that is happening in the other watch that is making me either doubt himself or doubt the team or whatever, that at least then I know that, and I know that's going on in his head, so we can maybe have a conversation about it, rather than just, let's pretend everything's okay. In me and John's case, let's talk about music for an hour and gloss over the fact that there's anything going on, and that'll go away otherwise. So I think those tools of understanding that if you have to be in close proximity, and now this is something that I will take away when I go back to work, and for all the students listening along, when they're doing group work, or when they're thinking about what work they're going to do and how they're going to do that later on in life, that never take being friends with someone or being in a relationship, or never take that for granted, especially when you get stressed. And don't be afraid to put in some hard work to make sure it stays well. Don't just assume because you're best friends today, you're going to be best friends tomorrow. It's something you've actively got to work at. And I think that's something we learned pretty well, John, isn't it?
Amazing. Thank you both for that analysis. I love that the idea of an explorer, somebody who accomplishes this monumental physical task, also hinges on kindness to one another and empathy and understanding. These things we don't talk about very often, but are really the keystones of resilience and teamwork. If you hadn't been able to do that successfully, you might still be rowing in the middle of the ocean right now instead of back home with your families.
And lots of teams are, and lots of individuals are, and are still going to be rowing for quite a long time. So we are very lucky to be finished and done and be back home by now.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Well, I want to end on sort of a fun note. We talked before you left from Spain, what you were looking forward to listening to at sea, what music was going to sort of keep you going. Both of you, I'd love to hear from both of you. Did either of you have a book or music or something you listened to that really got you going, kept you going, cheered you up when things were hard?
Go on, John.
Oh, well, music-wise, I am a lifelong fan of heavy metal. My big pick of the trip was actually I downloaded a 70s playlist, and it was a lovely playlist. Lots of Supertramp and Fleetwood Mac, and yeah, brilliant.
Excellent.
Me and John had a lot of time rowing overnight together, and I think whilst we have very similar music tastes, and spent a lot of time talking about our favourite bands, and in lots of cases John's many bands that he's been in himself, and getting to hear John's music over the ages, which is brilliant, but niche. But I think one highlight definitely on audiobooks is me and John listened to a couple of full audiobooks through together. Firstly, the Jurassic Park audiobook from way back when, and which is something I didn't even know was a book before the film, and it was interesting to listen to and probably give us own critiques of during. We listened to that. We both really enjoyed listening to that. And then what was it? Ender's Game. We finished up on, which for lots of the students, I'd really recommend. It's a great series of books.
I love the idea of you two listening to a book and having your own little book group and on this rowboat in the middle of the ocean discussing the plot twists of Jurassic Park as you slowly make your way across the ocean.
It was exactly that, yeah.
Well,
it was So just really quickly, it was really book club that for a while that it would be me and John rowing for an hour. John would go off and it was like, right, I'll turn off Ender's Game. Hugo's coming on, so we're going to listen to something the book me and Hugo were listening to, and then spend an hour talking about. Sorry, back to you, Tim.
Yeah, no problem. I was just going to say, for all the students who think they can get out of their reading lessons by going out into the middle of the ocean, it follows you out there. So, and for good use. Like, it sounds like the written word and music really helped keep your spirits up. There's so much we could talk about. We're just about out of time. One of my favorites was the story of waking up with a flying fish in the sleeping bag, or like in the sleeping area. And for students and anyone who's listening, there's a great article about it on the Reach the World site. So I'm going to put this link back up here. You can go to this link. You can, review all of the Reach the World virtual exchange expeditions, and especially find the homepage for HMS Oardacious and find that story of what it's like to wake up with a flying fish in your sleeping bag, which is something I don't think more than a handful of people can say has happened to them. So gentlemen, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Reach the World and our teachers and our students, we're just so proud of you for accomplishing this amazing crossing of the Atlantic Ocean and in record time. Thanks for taking us along with you on this inspirational journey. And thanks to our entire YouTube audience and those of you who are following after the fact, the recorded version, for being a part of this experience with us. Everyone be sure to visit the HMS Oardacious Virtual Exchange homepage. Link is on your screen right now. You can read more about this journey and relive it for many months to come. So thank you so much, guys. It was great to see you. Congratulations again. And until we see you next time, take care.
Thank you so much for having us, Tim. And thank you very much, guys.
Tim, absolute pleasure. Thank you.